Howdy readers, I'm Jason, this is Chapter and Verse, and welcome to my 2023 announcement video for March of the Mammoths. So for those of you who don't know, March of the Mammoths is a month-long readathon in which we celebrate books, fiction and nonfiction, that are 800 pages or more, right? This is how we define a mammoth. The reason we started this event years ago now is because we live in a world where we're constantly distracted, right? We have a million things pulling us in a million different directions at any given moment. Whether it's the films that we watch or the books that we read, we tend to want to keep them short because we have other things to get back to. And when we do that, when we cut the 3-hour and 4-hour films from our lives, and when we cut the the books that are 600 pages or 800 pages or 1200 pages from our lives, we are shortchanging ourselves. Because the thing is, when a work of narrative art has that space to expand its world and to really drill down into the psyches of its characters and the complexities and dynamics of the relationships going on in the book or the film, we get works of art that are just a good deal more complicated, a good deal richer than typically than novels that are much shorter and films that are much shorter. I saw an interview with a bunch of directors recently, and one of them talked about how the dream is to make a movie that's 85 minutes long, and there are very few directors who could take 85 minutes and make something really worthwhile or really valuable in that time. The long and short of it is that we, as storytellers, we need to give ourselves the room to tell stories, and that's why oftentimes really big books, really big novels, really big histories tend to just be much more rewarding reading experiences. But the thing is, like I said, we live in a world that goes out of its way to convince us that we don't have the time to give those reading experiences, and it's just not true. And so with March of the Mammoths, my original co-hosts and I, right, Alex from Big Al Books, who's going to be hosting this year as well with me, and Lukas, whose channel used to be called Totally Pretentious, then it was A Cruel Reader's Thesis. Now he's stepped away from Booktube, so he won't be hosting this year. But what we wanted to do from the beginning was to carve out a month from the year to encourage people to take that big, daunting, intimidating book off of your shelf and give it a go, right? And don't feel pressured at all to finish it in the month. I mean, I know some of you are very fast readers, and you could read a mammoth in a week. I'm not one of those readers. In fact, every year that we've done this, I have, spent the month of March really just making a good initial dent in my mammoth, and then I would spend the rest of the year finishing it. Well, last year I was unable to do that. I started reading Gone with the Wind for March of the Mammoths, and I'm going to actually be reading it this year. I'm going to be picking up where I left off. I'm about a quarter of the way into the book, but you might be wondering, well, why didn't you finish your mammoth like you usually do by the end of December? Well, I won't go into it too much here, but I've had some fairly significant kind of mysterious health issues, and the doctors have come to the conclusion that it was what's going on with me was brought on by my sleep apnea, which I've had for years now, and it has created complications, let's say, with my heart and my lungs. And so for much of last year, I actually thought I was, coming down with something like chronic fatigue syndrome or something like this. So reading became very, very difficult for me. I think I only finished 11 books last year, which has got to be the smallest number of books I finished in a year in more than 2 decades. So I may make a video where I go into this a bit more. I do feel like, yeah, many of you would want to know what's going on with me. Some of you already do know all of the details. But that's really what it is, you know. So, I mean, I just finished a book the other day, and it was the first novel that I have finished reading since last September, to give you some idea. So that's why I didn't get around to finishing Gone with the Wind last year. It wasn't because I was disliking it. I actually think it's pretty glorious. But that's what I'm going to be picking back up this year for March of the Mammoths. So that's what we want you to do. We want you to have a look at your shelves, find something that you've been wanting to read, meaning to read, curious to read for a really long time, and you've just been put off by its size. So brush everything else aside to some degree in the month of March, and give the book a fair shake. Right, give it a fighting chance to capture your attention, and see what comes of that. But anyway, I will link to Alex's announcement video down below. Give her channel a look. She's always been such a great cheerleader for this event, such a great co-host. She's a much faster reader than I am. She tends to read a few mammoths during the month of March. That's why it's really nice to have her as a co-host of this event. She's a very fast reader. I'm a very slow reader. We're kind of the tortoise and the hare in that way. And but it's nice for people who watch our channels to, you know, regardless of what their own reading speeds might be, to see themselves reflected in the hosts. Realize that, yeah, that there's nothing abnormal about them finishing early or you know, drawing their experience of the event out over many months if need be. But anyway, if you're planning to participate this year, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what you're reading, what you're considering reading, and if you've just got thoughts about March of the Mammoths, you know, what it's meant to you in the past. You know, what books you've discovered through this event that have stayed with you, have haunted you, have really, I don't know, just kind of woven their way into the weft of who you are. I'd love to know that as well. So, yeah, leave a comment down below, and I will report back, hopefully before too long, with some further thoughts on Gone with the Wind. Until then, adios.